Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Today we're be back together again. It's been a while.
Band's back together.
But the band is back together. Michael's back from Department of Trade Consumer Protection. How's your summer going, buddy?
It's going well. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah? You just caught me on a walk coming in, styling, and you're like, oh man, looking good.
Always impressed. You're out there.
Yeah, I'm just out there. That's the big thing, is getting out there. Sometimes it's really hot out and everything else. But I tell you this because as I was walking up to the municipal building, and today our topic is going to be state municipal government imposters. Mm-hmm. So you walk into the building and you're like, trusting the government, want to trust the government, want to. There's a lot of reasons not to, because there are so many scams that are crisscross our government entities. And today you guys are focused on, saying, well, nationally we hear this all the time. But even locally, in this county, there are things going on. So my first big question for you is, DATCP is dealing with a lot of things, but there are so many things, right, that cross-government imposter. In almost every every scam, every weird phone call anything, right? Like, it's usually tied to the government somehow.
Well, it is, and I think you keyed on an important point of everyone hears about these scams and they think that won't happen to me, or that's only happening someplace else, or I'm not going to experience this. And what we're trying to really focus on, it is happening here. It isn't just something you read about nationally or these other scams. It's that it is happening with our own agencies. And to your point, we're very dependent on a lot of these government agencies for the services or things that we have to have. And so then when they start being exploited and we're like, well, we have to go here, but now we have to be a little bit cautious, that's where we want to say, hey, just take a second, because unfortunately we're going to have to take a second with almost everything we do digitally now.
Well, we'll start here that your own agency.
Our own agency.
Your own DATCP. How dare you, whoever you are, mess with DATCP.
I agree. Risky.
So
this has happened a couple times to us, but the most recent one was with our kind of meat processing area. And so these scammers got a hold of a list of licensees. So these are the meat processing plants. And then they fabricated a letter that said there's something with your license that you need to renew. And they sent it out to all these businesses and said, hey, you need to submit this information and a payment.
Wow.
And it looked very legitimate, like most scams do. And so thankfully, some of these licensees reached out to us and said, hey, is this legitimate? What's going on here? Or some of the prices were a little bit different. And they said, well, what's with the increase? And that alerted us that the scam was out there. But it gave us an opportunity to reach out to all of them quickly and say, hold on a second. And we're starting to see that in a lot of areas, right, where you're seeing banners when you go to their website and there's an issue and a problem.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind too is we had the toll scam, from Illinois. And the state of Illinois is like, no, stop. But
right.
But I mean, it looked legit, and the way it targeted, the timing, everything about it made it super right in there. So as you say in here with the meat processors, something that they're expecting that they have to do, and then get this letter and be like, wait, what?
Exactly.
Wow. Interesting. Wisconsin DOT, I've seen this, I saw this one, very interesting too. Again, it seems like all DOTs across the U.S. have been picked on some various reasons.
Well, and Wisconsin's gotten hit twice now. And so you brought up the toll scam that was earlier in March, where they were using Wisconsin DOT's name in that text scam. And then this most recent one was they said you have a traffic violation that you haven't paid, and if you don't take an action quickly, you're going to have the suspended license. What was a little bit interesting about this one is they had a link within that message, and it took you to a website that looked identical to the Wisconsin DOT's layout, banners, color scheme, everything. And so it was very, very convincing. And if you didn't realize that, hey, I don't have an outstanding ticket, or you didn't go to the legitimate website or didn't call the right people, it was very easy to fall into that and enter your information before you realize it was a scam.
My goodness.
I know.
Even closer to home here now, City of Green Bay and City of Monona receiving a fake email, or a scam, basically coming in from a fake email address. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so this is similar to the one that we talked about with us with the meat processing plant. Was they got a hold of permit and licensee holders for those two municipalities, and they sent out letters. Looked like letterhead, the same emblems, same language, real addresses, real permit numbers, real names and address to go with it. So everything fit the mold. And they said, hey, it's time for you to renew, or there's an additional fee. You have to pay and submit some information in that payment. And of course, hopefully some of them caught it. I don't think everybody caught it and ended up giving a little bit of information or money there. But it just is kind of trying to make sure we send home. All of us are kind of being targeted. as consumers here in Wisconsin, and they're using these businesses that we trust and rely on to kind of break down that guard and that barrier.
Well, you think too, if the pseudo government, whatever level it is reaching out to you, it's legit, right? You just audit. You may fall into that category, like, oh man, they're reaching out to me. That must be legit. But in fact, no. We got to stop and think about these things. Like, is it legit?
It is, and you think about. I think we might think, well, is a scammer really going to take the time to get a license, and then target me for this particular municipality? Like, there's so many layers, and we sometimes get lured into this false sense of belief that scammers are lazy and they just want to put in the easiest, scam out there to get whatever they can. And that's not the case, because as we learn more about them, they're going to have to tailor their styles to be a little bit more complex. And so that's why we see this and we think, well, a scammer would never do this.
Well, and we don't know, too, what they're going after. We have a probably good idea, but maybe they're working one angle, but really they got the information they wanted, and they're just testing the waters. Like, we don't know. And so no matter what, you've got some other tips here. You've already kind of mentioned this, but double checking the contact information, a plus. I think when it comes to anything government, why not circle back to go to the legit site and verify, no matter what it is? Like, it just feels like you got to do it.
You're going to have to. We talked about, hovering and looking and if it's completely different, that's going to jump out. But what we want to focus on here is the very small differences. In the case of the Green Bay, the email was coming from cityofgreenbay.wi.gov. But in reality, it's just greenbaywi.gov is the real address. Well, if we didn't know and work for City of Green Bay, we look at both of those and think either one's legitimate because they both seem like a real government address. But that's how they're getting you, is they're thinking, all right, you're not going to pay attention enough to realize this isn't the legitimate one, but it's close enough.
I mean, to see a .gov, like, that could be the end-all be-all for a lot of people.
Right.
They wouldn't even care about the first part. Like, okay,
I agree.
That's got to be legit. Yeesh. Pause before sending. It's something you've told us many times, is to stop and think about before reacting. Super important.
Yeah, it is. And in this one, we have the big red flags, which they're asking you to pay in cryptocurrency or gift cards. And you're like, I've heard about those red flags. But really what we want you to do is just take a second and say, would DATCP, would the City of Green Bay, would the City of Monona be asking me for this? And would they be asking for it in the way that they are? And oftentimes, just taking that second and asking yourself those questions is going to get you to a point where you're not going to respond to it. You're going to say, wait a second, this doesn't seem quite right. I'm going to go to the source that I know is real, and that's it. So that pause can save you a lot of heartache.
And you do say here, contact the government entity using the email address or phone number that is confirmed to be legitimate. Yeah. Again, couldn't drive it home more that finding that legit, verify and verify again, especially if you question even just a tiny bit, why not do that extra step?
It is. It's so easy between we're phone right here. You're saying with two devices that are so easy to be able to verify that information. And the one thing we talked about it last month also was making sure, though, when you do that verification, that you don't just default to the first result. That that you're paying attention to what the results are, because there's so many sponsored websites and different things that might try and prioritize themselves over the real agency. So just making sure you're double checking where you're going also. And
then finally, you do want people to report this. So, sometimes I can tell you, for working from a local government, we might not know that there's scams happening in behalf of our name until we hear it from you calling us saying, hey, guess what?
Exactly. That's our agency, when we were hit with the meat processing, it's a perfect example.
You wouldn't know.
We wouldn't know until they call us. And that's why it's twofold. We always want people to report, one, so we have an opportunity to help them, and we can make sure we can stop it. But then two, we can take that information for situations just like this. So we can share it with all of your listeners and your viewers and say, hey, you know what? Be aware that this is happening.
Well, I really appreciate it, because you said it hit home, literally hit home, backyard, DATCP, backyard, unbelievable. So you know that nothing's off limits. I mean, really, and then just keep not letting your guard down. It's so much. So much, Michael. I don't know how you keep coming in here with a smile and be like, we're going to do it again, Jeremy.
Well, I'm hoping it's because we're doing a good thing, right? I'm hoping it's so that people are
awareness.
understanding, and we can prevent people from falling victim to these, because they're really convincing.
Yes, they are. You can tell I'm frustrated just right there.
Sorry about that. Time for another walk.
Well, time for another update. All right, Mike, appreciate it. If people want to learn more about what we talked about today, or want to report, or want to stay up on the latest and greatest stuff that are happening, how can they do so?
Best place to start at datcp.wi.gov. If you go to our website, you'll find a trove of information, fact sheets, things we're talking about, but you'll also find links to all of our social media sites where we keep those updated as we're seeing things, so you can kind of learn and be aware in real time.
How dare you go after DATCP, my best friend? I'm coming after you. No, I'm just kidding.
Bold move.
We really appreciate the time, Michael, and yeah, please double check, every single time. Stop, think, and then act after doing so.
That's perfect.
Think about Michael and what he said. That's the way I think of it. Michael said, you